Student retention in online programs. Or how can we make the pieces fit to keep online students on track? Christine Gries, Walden University. So my original problem statement is, why do students drop out of online programs? Is it poor advice from admissions representatives as to what program they're enrolled in? Do they not get enough support from student services? Maybe they can't negotiate financial aid or the necessary forms. What about that class design? Does it really address how students learn in different ways? Or is it the instructors themselves? Because teaching online and teaching face-to-face is quite different. And what about the student? Are they prepared? Do they have the necessary technology tools and knowledge to take an online class? Do they possess the necessary communication skills? Because it's all writing. And how has student retention... So, part of my problem statement is like, how has student retention for online classes been tracked in the past? And how's it tracked now? So what I found in my literature review is that student retention has been tracked for decades. There's been various methodologies used. The focus has been mostly on outcomes rather than structures. It tracks general student satisfaction. Are they happy with the class? So even if they're not really happy, they're going to tell you that they're happy with the class. It uses models that are meant for face-to-face classes, and it kind of ignores online. So how's it tracked now? Well, until recently, there were student satisfaction surveys, which is still in use today. Focuses on outcomes rather than structures. Tracks general student satisfaction and uses models meant for face-to-face classes, totally ignoring online. It's pretty scary because online and on the ground is different. It's not very promising. So what's wrong with this type of survey? Patterns and persistence may vary according to institutional type, so it's kind of hard to compare. Will this work for us? And what's right about this type of survey? Well, the idea can give enrollment professionals trends. The data can give enrollment professionals trends. So you can kind of say, well, this is what's going to happen. But things are changing. And is that method sustainable? Well, in order to answer this question, let's look at who came up with all this research. Now, since it's been tracked for decades, actually one gentleman, Vincent Tintino, has spent over 30 years doing this research. And it's his research that's widely quoted. His research actually ushered in the age of involvement with students, defines stages of retention, and defines effective student retention programs. Again, they're mostly based face-to-face, but does not take into consideration online. So I had to redefine my problem statement. So how do we connect the research that's already been done with the online student? We need to take a holistic approach. We need to look at everything, all the variables. In other words, which variables do come into play? Well, they all do. Personal, institutional, and circumstantial. We have to include all of this. This chart shows all the variables broken down. Now, institutional-wise, we might not use all of these, but personal and circumstantial variables, we might use them all, because it addresses the student. So what Burge and Han wound up doing is redefining or actually tweaking a few things, such as retention is continued student participation in a learning event to completion. Okay? Attrition is the decline in the number of students from the beginning to the end of the course. And persistence is the result of the student's decision to continue their participation. So they but fine-tune these definitions. So what kind of model do we need for this sustainable student retention. It's got to be inclusive and context sensitive. Inclusive means that we take in consideration all of those variables that pertain to the student. Context sensitive means we give the student what they need to succeed. For example, for a face-to-face student body, if you're going after a particular age group, maybe that age group has young children, you might need to provide daycare for them. Online is different. So what do we need to provide our students so they will succeed? So here's this sustainable student retention model. And it takes into consideration all the variables, okay? And in this framework, we take a dual approach. This enables the identification of variables that are most relevant to the institution's context. So not all the variables will be used for our study. Stresses institutional interventions that could be most relevant for enhancing student retention. So we really have to take a look at that. How do we intervene in order to retain our students? So now that we're going to be using Blackboard for everything, including on-the-ground classes, these is going to be blended learning classes, we're going to have to see retention of students in online classes, blended learning, and in person. We're also going to have to see what interventions to enhance this retention at an institutional management level, a curriculum and instruction level, and an academic and social supports level. So my conclusion? This model can be adapted to our online program, but further research is needed to see which variables need to be addressed. And I think it'll be worth the work in order to be able to serve our students more fully. Multiple surveys may need to be done on the institutional side and the student side, because after all, unhappy workers can't really service students politely or effectively. Here are my references. And thank you for your attention.